Hi everybody, this is lecture for topic 8 and today is Tuesday 21st of December 2021. So this is topic 8. The title of the topic is corporate governance and this is part 2. Part 1 of the corporate governance topic is for topic 7. Okay, so in this topic, you will learn about governance, corporate governance structure, Anglo-American governance model, Continental European and Japanese governance model. Okay, there are 3 things that you will learn in this topic. So this is like the revision, just to refresh your memory about corporate governance. Corporate governance is the mechanism, processes, and relations by which corporations are controlled and directed. So you have seen the definition of corporate governance in the previous lecture, video. So this is like the addition to that definition. Second point here, governance structures and principles identify the distribution of rights and responsibilities among different participants in the corporation, such as the board of directors, managers, shareholders, creditors, auditors, regulators, and other stakeholders, and includes the rules and procedures for making decisions in corporate affairs. So, mostly in this topic 8, you will learn about corporate governance model. Like I said earlier in the previous lecture, corporate governance can be understood as a system used to govern a company. So corporate governance models are the corporate governance structure used in different contexts or places. Okay, so corporate governance models that you will learn in this topic are 3 different models. The first one is called Anglo-American model, and then the second one is German model, and then Japanese model. I think the second type or the second model is also known as the European model. Okay, Anglo-American model. Anglo-American model of corporate governance is used in USA, Great Britain or UK, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and also in Malaysia, Singapore, and other Commonwealth countries or countries that follows the system of US and UK. So, and then the German model or European model are used in the European countries. Japanese model is unique given that Japan is one of the largest economy in the world. We should look at the Japanese model also. Okay, see the Anglo-Saxon model or the Anglo-Saxon model. See the first point. The Anglo-Saxon model was crafted by the more individualistic business societies in Great Britain and United States. This model presents the board of directors and shareholders as controlling parties. Managers and chief officers ultimately have secondary authority. So in Malaysia, the corporate governance model that we use is the Anglo-Saxon model. In Malaysia, for a company, we will have shareholders, a company owned by shareholders. Shareholders can be individuals, can be institution, like bank or other institutions or other companies. Also, a government of Malaysia also can purchase shares of companies using their investment arm like Hazanah. So they can own shares. KWSP also purchase shares. Tabung Haji also purchase shares. So company shares can be owned by individuals and institutions, including the government. Okay, and then these shareholders will appoint a board of directors. In Malay, in BM we call it ahli lembaga pengarah syarikat. The directors are basically the shareholders. Basically, the basic idea is the directors are shareholders. Major shareholders will become directors most of the time. And then the directors, the board of directors, will hire managers to run a company. The highest level manager is called Chief Executive Officer or CEO. So that is the model that we use in Malaysia, and it is called Anglo-Saxon model. The model is used in many Commonwealth countries and also countries that follow the system of US and UK. See, point number 2, managers derive their authority from the board, which is beholden to voting shareholders' approval. Most companies with Anglo-Saxon corporate governance system have legislative controls over shareholders' ability to assert practical day-to-day control over the company. Capital and shareholder structure is highly dispersed in the Anglo-Saxon markets. Moreover, regulatory authorities such as the US Securities and Exchange Commission explicitly support shareholders over boards or managers. In Malaysia, we have Malaysian Securities Commission. In US, they have US Securities and Exchange Commission. So, I think you have to know. You are accounting students. You have to know about the model of corporate governance that we use in Malaysia. A company is owned by shareholders, and then the shareholders form the board of directors. The board of directors, I think the average of Malaysian board of directors contain 6 members, as far as I can remember. And the directors will hire managers to run a company, to manage a company. The shareholders do not manage or run the company. They invest money, and then they hire managers to run or manage the operation of the company. The board of directors and shareholders has the power to appoint CEO and other managers, and also to terminate the service of the CEO and other managers. And then the second corporate governance model is called the Continental Model or European Model. The term continental refers to the mainland Europe. The Continental Model grew out of a mixture of fascist and Catholic influence in the early to mid-20th century. Cooperation in Germany and Italy typify this model. German and Italy, they use this continental model. In the continental system, the corporate entity is seen as coordinating vehicle between national interest groups. Banks often play a large role financially and in decision making for firms. Special protections are offered to creditors, particularly politically connected creditors. These companies usually have an executive board and a supervisory council. The executive board is in charge of corporate management. The supervisory council controls the executive board. Government and national interests are strong influences in the continental model, and much attention is paid to corporations' responsibility to submit to government objectives. So in the in countries that use continental model or European model, the corporate governance of their companies are different. They are unlike the one that I have explained in the previous slide. In Malaysia, we have shareholders own the business, and then shareholders form the board of directors and then appoint CEO and managers. That is the model that we use in Malaysia. But in Europe, particularly in Germany and Italy, that use European or continental model, the way they do it, the way they govern the company there is different. In their countries, government has strong influence on companies. Maybe government can own the companies, and also banks. Banks not only provide loan or financing facility, but bank also has very strong influence in the governance of the companies there. Okay, so that is the thing. I wish we have something, no figure or something here to explain that. But they have difference. They have 2-tier system, I think. One supervisory committee, and then under the supervisory council. So they are different ways compared to us. Here in Malaysia, we have board of directors, and then we have the managers or management. The board of directors appoint the CEO and managers. But there they have several levels: supervisory council, executive board. The supervisory council controls the executive board. Government and national interests are strong influences in the continental model. So that is the way they do it in Europe. They have the government has strong influence on the corporate governance. Okay, in Japan, they also use different model. Their model is called Japanese model. Japan is only one country, but Japan is one of the largest economy in the world. That's why we look at it. If the country is small and the system is unique, but the economy is small, then we don't have to learn about them. But Japan, the country is small, but the economy is one of the biggest in the world. So we have to look at it. Maybe we can learn something from it. So the first point here, see, Japanese model is the outlier of the three. Governance patterns take shape in light of two dominant legal relationships: one between shareholders, customers, suppliers, creditors, and employee union; the other between administrators, managers, and shareholders. So, see here, there is a sense of joint responsibility and balance to the Japanese model. The Japanese word for this balance is kiretsu, which roughly translates to loyalty between suppliers and customers. In practice, this balance takes the form of defensive posturing and distrust of new business relationships in favor of the old. Japanese regulators play a large role in corporate policies, often because corporations' major stakeholders include Japanese officials. The central banks and the Japanese Ministry of Finance review relationships between different groups and have implicit control over negotiations. Given the interrelationship and concentration of power among the many Japanese corporations and banks, it is also not surprising that corporate transparency is lacking in the Japanese model. Individual investors are seen as less important then business entities, government, and union groups. So Japanese model is complex. See here, they have like complex relationship between shareholders and customer, suppliers, creditors, and employee unions, and also between shareholders and administrators, managers, and managers. See here, and also this is the thing that I also have read somewhere else. In Japan, the banks has also very strong influence on a company, and also they have close relationship between supplier and customer in Japan. So suppliers also has very strong influence on the corporate governance of a company in Japan. That's what I can explain about it. So from this topic, you have learned 3 model for corporate governance: Anglo, Saxon model, European model, and Japanese model. So one thing that you have to know is, one thing that is important for you is, you have to know the Anglo-Saxon model, because that is the model that we use here. And the second thing that you learn from this topic is, even though we use this Anglo-Saxon model here, we have to aware that there are other models of corporate governance in other places. Like in Europe they use one model, in Japan they use another model, and also our neighboring countries like Indonesia use a different model. They are not same like us. They are not using Anglo-Saxon model, I think, as far as I know. They have two tier system, and then as far as I can remember, in Indonesia they follow the Netherlands system, because they was colonized by Netherlands or Belanda many years ago. So they follow Netherlands system of Netherlands model of corporate governance. We Malaysia, we have been influenced by British many years ago. We don't like them, but we inherited the British system. So we use Anglo-Saxon corporate governance model in Malaysia, just like the one they use in UK. So what else? Okay, this table summarizes the differences between the Anglo-Saxon model, Continental European model or European model, and Japanese model. So see here, maybe we will see 1 or 2 differences. The first point, that oriented towards stock market. So we in Malaysia, the orientation is on the stock market. We companies in Malaysia, they want to make sure their value in the stock market, the share price is high. So if the share price drop, they are worried. So companies in Malaysia is like that, because their orientation is on the stock market. But in Europe and Japan, their orientation is on the banking market. like I said earlier, in Europe and Japan, bank has strong influence on the corporate governance of the companies there. So consideration in Anglo-Saxon model, shareholders' property right, and then in Europe, shareholders' property right and companies' relationship with employees. In Japan, the stakeholders' interests. And then the third point is shareholding structure in Malaysia or Anglo-Saxon model countries. The shareholding is dispersed. The shares of a business can be owned by anybody, can be owned by individual, can be owned by institution, even can be owned by government. So the shareholding is dispersed. But in Europe and Japan, the shareholding is concentrated. In Japan, cross possession of shares, like I said earlier, maybe one business, cross possession means one business is owned by its supplier. So one company, the company shares is owned by supplier, by the supplier of the company, and at the same time the company also own shares in the supplier's company. So they cross possession of shares. They maintain very close relationship between the supplier and the company. So, and then management, see here, executive directors, non-executive directors. So in Anglo-Saxon model, we have executive directors and non-executive directors. But in continental Europe, they have two level of governance: supervisor board and board of directors. In Japan, they also have two tier model or governance: board of directors and revision commission. So okay, there are two more, but I think if we look at 3 or 4 points, it is sufficient for us to see the difference. Okay, this is still the same table. The degree of influence of participants according to legal system. Okay, see here. So we can see that Anglo-Saxon model, the model of corporate governance, the model that we use in Malaysia. See here, the importance of the participant is the individuals. In Malaysia, individual shareholders are very important because they have numbers. Largest shareholders are individual shareholders, so they have voting rights during the AGM. So they are very powerful. But in Europe and Japan, individuals do not have high influence. In Europe, the highest party that has influence is business network, and in Japan, banks have the highest influence in the corporate governance. Okay, in conclusion, each model developed based on cultural, historical, and technological features. Each corporate governance model appeared under influence of national, economic, and social specific conditions. No corporate governance model is perfect. Corporate governance structure specific to a country, difficult to transfer to another country. Good governance difficult to measure. Implemented model essentially depends on the firm's theory of voluntary or mandatory approach. Okay, thank you very much. That is the end of the topic 8. Write your name and metric number in the comment section of this video. That is for my record, so that I know how many students have watched the lecture. Thank you very much.